Hi, my name is Andy Malley, and this is Glimmer DSL for SWT tutorial number 18. So today we're going to go through another small sample. It's Hello Sash Form. So let's get started by launching the sample. There you go. So a Sash Form is basically a sort of a composite-like widget that can contain two other widgets and a sash in the middle. And the sash enables adjusting the size between the two widgets. So for example, we have this Sash Form that contains a green sort of composite-like widget on the left side and a red one on the right side. On the left side, there's this label that says Hello Resize. On the right side, it says Sash Form. Resize Sash Form. I mean, what it's really saying is Hello Sash Form, and it's pointing to us with those arrows that we can resize it from here. And as you can see, if I drag it to the left, I can hide the word resize, or I can drag this all the way to the right and hide Sash Form, for example. So this is a very useful widget for desktop applications that contain multiple sections. I mean, if I were to close this, we have a sash over here, for example. You might have not been aware of it before, but it enables us to increase the size of the code area. So it could be very useful for certain scenarios. So if I were to launch this again, let's check out what the attributes that we have over here. So we have a sash width property, which is 10 pixels. So if I were to decrease this, you can see that the sash is getting narrower and narrower. In fact, I can even choose to make it 0. If you make it 0, it becomes a hidden sash, which the user cannot adjust, but you can programmatically adjust it or provide buttons to adjust it. However, in most cases, you do want a sash. If I make it 1, it's very narrow. I can still resize with it, but there's very small room for error in me pointing at it with the mouse, so it makes it more difficult for users to resize. So I mean, typically you might want it to be 5 or 10, something like that. I mean, just for the fun of it, we can make it extra big. That could be useful in scenarios that need accessibility support. In order to support people with visual impairments, you would make it extra fat in a way. And that makes things a lot more easy for the user in order to adjust the sizing of the sash areas. So what else do we have? We have the orientation. It's horizontal by default, but I can make it vertical. There you go. So this is just referring to the fact that this is splitting things vertically. The sash itself is horizontal. It's a horizontal line, but it's splitting things vertically. Whereas if I were to make it horizontal, then it's splitting the things horizontally. And then if I want, I can maximize the green area. I can maximize the red area, or I can restore them to the original form by maximize none. I actually make use of this feature in the Glimmer editor Gladiator. Gladiator gives you, a tree that enables you to browse files on the left side, and it gives you a code area on the right side. But I provide a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut, to enable you to maximize the code area to the max, and that's kind of like me saying here maximize red label, and it ends up maximizing this region completely. So let's take a look at the code. Let's close it. So first of all, we start with a Sash Form presenter that keeps track of all the attributes that we will data bind to the view. Then if we were to scroll down, I mean, before I scroll down though, like what do we have here? We have a sash width, which was the first attribute we looked at. We have an orientation, which is the second one. And we have an orientation style, which is simply you passing an orientation constant like horizontal or vertical, which could be a symbol or a string, to the SWT keyword, which will then convert it into an SWT style integer. that is used internally in SWT. This might not exactly be needed, but it's just a way of preparing the data for passing it to the widget, which you're going to see soon once I get into the GUI. So let's scroll down and look at the GUI. Oh yeah, one more thing. The SWT keyword here became available because we included Glimmer into the presenter. So normally we include Glimmer into the view, not the presenter. There are a few rare cases where including Glimmer into the presenter will give us keywords that are useful for supporting the view, but not necessarily building GUI. You don't want to build GUI in the presenter ever. The presenter is usually decoupled from the GUI. It's a sort of a model. However, here it's a special case. We wanted to convert attributes into an SWT style integer to prepare them for passing into the widgets. So that's why we included this in the presenter. But you can assume that in 99% of the cases you will not need to do that. In any case, so if we were to scroll down to the GUI, this is just a demo app. So we included Glimmer at the top namespace. You wouldn't do that in real apps, but it's good enough for this sample. So let's dig into the app. So the shell is the top window that shows up, and it has a title of Hello Sash Form. But then if we dig into it, we have a Sash Form here, a Sash Form widget with certain attributes, as well as weights, which I'm gonna get into in a second. But then below it, we have two labels. The label that was showing on the left side and the label that was showing on the right side. One thing to keep in mind is that normally in SWT, they require you to set the weights after you've added the widgets. But thanks to Glimmer DSL for SWT, it recognizes that that's kind of confusing for the developers because when you have a declarative DSL, you don't want to be worrying about the ordering of things. That's more of an imperative approach, not declarative. So Glimmer DSL for SWT allows you to set the weights beforehand, before adding the widgets, and it'll take care of passing things to SWT at the low level correctly for SWT to be happy, so you don't have to worry about it yourself. Weights are basically the weights of the two components that are added, so 1 to 2, and so when I launched it, you could see this is like a third of the horizontal space, and this is 2/3 of the horizontal space, so that's 1 to 2. And obviously you can play around with it, make it 1 to 5, for example. There you go, like it shrunk the area significantly. So so that's about it for the the general functionality of a Sash form. However, for more specific functionality, we have a Sash width, which is data bound bidirectionally to a Sash width attribute on presenter, and we have an orientation, which is data bound to orientation style on presenter. And then if we were to scroll down, we have a composite that has a label and a spinner, a label and a combo, and a few buttons. And you can see that the spinner is data bound to Sash width. So if you data bind two widgets into the same attribute on a model, they get synced. So that presenter acts as a sort of a source for both of them. So that's what enabled us to, when I increase this, it affects the Sash indirectly, automatically, so you don't have to worry about it yourself. So, I mean, that's the beauty of using bidirectional data binding. It's declarative and it's very minimal code. It's like the least amount of code possible for declaring, data binding between multiple widgets, which also provides you with the most productive and maintainable code possible. The buttons were simply basically changing the maximize control attribute on Sash Form to be set to the widget that you want to maximize, whether it's the green label or the red label. SWT widget, the method will actually dig into the low-level SWT widget that's contained within this label wrapper, and it'll pass it to this. And then here in the maximize none, you simply revert it to nil, and that will automatically get back to showing us the original weights. So if I do this, it maximizes it, but if I do maximize none, it resets it to the weights like 1 to 2 that were initially set. That pretty much covers everything related to a Sash form. In order to learn more about Glimmer DSL for SWT, check out the GitHub project.